In recent months, I've started to feel a change in my outlook on life. Through thought-provoking conversation, challenges to my train of thought, and a seemingly instant switch in monologue, my attention in the world and the material items around me has drastically changed. I've taken a new perspective to suffering, that is, in a reasonable case, where I should not see hardships, poor weather, harsh conditions, or disadvantages as a sign of bad times. Instead, these are moments for growth, self-reflection, and strength. Not in a traditional European conqueror style, where I'm greater than any challenge, or better than those who fall victim to the harsh times, but in a way that's much harder to sum up in words. Maybe like how an American dipper makes it through a winter in the high Cascades, battling the weather, harshing sub-zero temperatures, and hunting for food in super cold streams. Maybe like that battered dwarf of a tree you come across on an exposed cliffside, stunted, forced to grow at an angle, away from the wind, with sparse foliage, thick bark, and deep roots. Maybe that's it. Times like these, where I shift my perspective, I find it's often aligned with the intake of powerful messaging, new philosophy, unique perspective. This time, it happened to land as I was reading Robert Pirsig's book. Phaedrius, in this story, happens to fall into a mania quite similar in essence to how I've been thinking and feeling lately. The ghost of rationality was now what Phaedrius pursued and what led to his insanity. I found myself at a point where my self-reflection and efforts to build who I am have become self-destructive, at a crossroads between sanity and this mania I fear so much. I'll leave that for another time. I prefer to focus on the emphasis of the forgotten analog world, quality, and the shortcomings of institutionalized learning. In a world so intertwined with the digital life, it's now a fad to unplug, take a weekend away, go to a foreign country stuck back in time. But what if you were to try and live like that? You'd be left behind. The monster, capitalist greed, consumerism, and the basic desires of mankind keeps eating up the land and polluting the air and lakes. There's no way to strike back at it, and hardly any way to escape it. But the solution isn't to swear to destroy it, hate it, or avoid it. Their fight from and hatred of technology is self-defeating. The Buddha, the Godhead, resides quite as comfortably in the circuits of a digital computer as he does at the top of a mountain or in the petals of a flower. To think otherwise is to demean the Buddha, which is to demean oneself. It's so difficult to find the balance. But then I spend a few days away from it all, living a hippie lifestyle, and the value of it all comes back to me. Maybe it's not the technology that beats me down, the consumerism, and the hopeless feeling left by my position in the social hierarchy. None of these really are the root cause, but it can be linked to the monotony of this life in society, where the quality of life is measured by wealth, job security, living conditions, friend groups, and an insufferably larger list that goes on and on. About a year and a half ago, I had enough. Institutionalized learning had taken its toll on me. The hopeless feeling of never moving up, making a better life for myself, and graduating into a new social class was just too much. I withdrew from my classes I had been working so hard to do well in, left the safety net of campus where I could find friends and like-minded people to fill my voids in my day. Occupying my busy brain, I avoided my obligations to my dearest friends with no consideration of how it would affect our relationships. I needed to live that hippie lifestyle. I sold my reliable car, bought an old truck with an abundance of what most people call problems, and I like to address as charm, and dropped it all. Quit my well-paying, stable kitchen job. Didn't bother to text the folks for weeks, because goddammit, I'm going to live for just a bit like Christopher McCandless. After a few weeks, I still had that feeling deep inside, dissatisfied of the life I'd been living. Wasn't the problem society, technology, education? The feeling festered for a while, And the longer I thought about it, the less money I had. I returned home, now with a vague sense of identity and only a couple $100s to my name. It was the middle of summer. All my university friends had returned home to their stable families and close-knit friends, but the loneliness still wasn't the issue. Now I saw myself working a horrible job, too many hours, too late into the night, chasing my emotions and thoughts down with booze and other mind-altering substances. In the moment, my mind was quiet, but in the morning, I still felt awful, and now, this mania. Persic spends a good while talking about quality with big words, long trains of thought, and great comparisons to historical definitions. Here I am, 22 years old, trying to define quality for myself. What the hell was I searching for? These shitty jobs, dead-end trains of thought, and dissatisfying relationships weren't cutting it. What I needed was a real, earth-shattering education opportunity, something to spark that creative instinct. My empty spot to build, create, design. Instead of wasting money and time as a high-status mule, he would now have to get a job as a low-status mule, maybe as a mechanic. In time, maybe 6 months, 5 years perhaps, a change would easily begin to take place. His creative intelligence, stifled by too much theory and too many grades in college, would now become reawakened by boredom of the shop. He would like to design machinery himself. He'd think he could do a better job. So, he would come back to our school, but with a difference. He'd be a knowledge-motivated person. He'd be there to learn something. Motivation of this sort, once it catches hold, is a ferocious force. This larger goal wouldn't be the imitation of education in universities today, glossed over and concealed by grades and degrees. It would be the real damn thing. Damn timing. I wish I'd read this book back when I dropped out, back when I was hopeless. But maybe it's good I did the hippie thing, the hatred of technology, the capitalist pig, and the damned big box store. This mania still festers, but for now, at least it's a little quenched.